If you hired a worker to go ahead and to work with you with the INS, also the wages are also. We'll soon see why the wages are also. However, um, if you hired him stam to do any work, Afa Pisha Amala, he said to him, he hired him for the day. There's different jobs. And then during the day, he said to him, oh, please take that barrel there from one point to another point. The wages, even for that particular moment, is also mutter because you didn't hire him specifically for that job. Now, why should the wages be usher at all? Okay, you shouldn't have done it, but why should we wait? We'll see. If somebody hires a donkey, rent a car, dafka to transport yayin esech. Again, the money, the rental money is usher because it comes directly from Avodah Zarah. But you hire the donkey to sit there or to sit on it and ride. Even though the guy brought his big barrels afterwards, he hired it for himself to go to take him wherever it is. Then he put on his wares, and some of the wares were pasha yayin esech. Then it's charamuta because he didn't do specifically for that. In fact, you hired him. He hired it out for him to ride. Said the Gemara, let's understand. My time is chari asa. Why should this char be asa? Why should the wages be asa? If you can tell me, hoil the pashta pshadi, since yayin nesach asmano, since the yayin nesach itself, you don't have any benefit from the yayin nesach, the yayin, the wine that you poured. We're talking now not about stam yayin, we're talking about real yayin nesach. The guy poured it out for avodah zarah. Since that is forbidden to have a no, and therefore the wages that you're going to receive to help out in the yayin nesach, you're having a no. So therefore, the Isra Hana extends to the wages. That's the logic. Let me ask you a question. What about other things that are Asabana? Take, for example, Orla. Orla, the first 3 years that you plant a tree, it's Orla, you don't have any, you're not allowed to eat the fruits, nor can you have any Hana. Right? You mixed wheat, let's say, with grapes. And what happens if you're working with it? It's now we learned. What about, and Machran, Vikidish Bidman, you sold it and you took that money. Now, selling it and taking the money is even a stronger relationship than earnings. The money I'm getting paid doesn't come from the Isra Hana. It comes from the Balabas's bank account. Navas, I was involved in Isra Hana. Selling the Isra Hana and you're swapping it over for money, that's mamish chalipin, that's mamish in lieu. And yet the din is mikudeshes. We already had before. You gave it to a woman, she's mikudesh. No, the madach over there where your mama swapped the money as mekudah by Orlin Klaikedem. So why by Avodah Zarah the way? So surely the wages should be mutter by Orlin Klaikedem. So why by Avodah Zarah is it also? Why is it also? Everyone was puzzled at Taisa, but just out of curiosity, Taisa says, it seems from here that Orla itself, if you actually gave the woman Orla or something, you can't, she's not Mekudish. And Taisa asks, L'chayda, she can turn it into ashes, you can have a no like that Chanasan, and so on. And the Mishnah Malach writes on this Taisa, this is the most difficult, one of the most difficult Taisas we ever saw. Doesn't make sense from beginning to the end, and he remains a tzorich because what do you mean machma? The first Mishnah, you can't be Mekadosh a woman with Orla. Anyway, it's fascinating. The way Mishnah Malach words is this little. My Rebbe Oshbal says a lot of things. He used to say, "Was kleiner the tastes, was shredder the tastes. What the smaller tastes, the more difficult it is to understand. The big tastes says, don't get scared because their tastes bother explains everything what's going on. Exactly, it's the little ones that you have to figure out what's going on. Anyway, so why should it be also to accept the wages? Ella Taifus as dumb. We had before. Remember, there were two exceptions that the Isa, that's the initial Isa, passes on to the next generation. We had it by Shemitah, and we had it by Avodah Zarah. Remember, by Shemitah it was different than Avodah Zarah because by Shemitah it's the first item you set away. He sent the first item, and then we'll get to that later. So by since maybe the Avodah Zarah is Taifus is damav. If you take Avodah Zarah and you swap it to money, the money also becomes asr. So maybe the wages are like a swap. So the Gemara, Shmita, the Taifus is the mer. Shmita also takes the money and makes it into Avodah Zarah. But and yet we learned. I'll be very careful the nuances here. If somebody says to an employee, "Hey, take this coin." Lekoitli boy, you add the word with it. So when you say the word with it, it sounds like whatever you're doing, it's as if you bought this vegetable and in exchange of bringing me the vegetable, I'm going to give you money. Or it's like you're buying. You said, take this dinner, buy with me Yerek Hayim. Then that money he cannot keep. He said, pick for me. He didn't say buy. He said, pick for me vegetables. I'm giving you money, so it's a wage. But because the way he worded it, the way he coined it is, with this money, collect me the vegetables, sounds like you're actually, the vegetable becomes yours and you're selling it to me. It looks like a sale. And therefore, if it looks like a sale, the Easter, something's wrong. Okay. If there's a sale, then the Easter passes on to the money. We said by Shemitah. However, the wages are Aser. But if it says go do a job for me, collect me vegetables, and I'm going to pay wages, then it's Mutter because it's a wage. The Easter passes on to the swap, and yet the wages you can accept. So why by Avodah Zarah should be Aser? Knas hu sheknosech hachamim bechamorin ubeyayin nesech. It's a knas. Why are you working with yayin nesech? You shouldn't be working. So therefore, we're going to cancel. You can't enjoy the money that you're getting. And the same thing with chamorin. We'll soon see what the case of chamorin is. It's awesome. Some of the shaynim say, I don't know if they. I can't remember. They say it as a general rule by knas. But they definitely say it over here that where it's a knas, it's only also to the person that they did the wrong thing. But everybody else can have hana from that. So, in other words, if he paid him an item, his family can enjoy it. Others can enjoy it. Exactly. Exactly. It's exactly like the Nasiba said. Every Rabban is on the Gabra. He said the knas is on the person, which is actually very difficult to see tomorrow soon. But that's what he said. I can't remember if he said by every single knas or just by this particular knas. Yeah, okay, true. But others. Not so maybe because maybe over here also family. He doesn't make that distinction. Maybe you're right. Maybe family is the same thing. Maybe he just a lachedim. So maybe lachedim means fremde, strangers. Okay, yayin etzchadam. We just said no, but it's a knas. What's the story of the chamori? In the time we learned chamori, these chamori, these people who used to carry the freight. So they worked with Pedis or Shemitah is choron shvius. Whatever wages they get, that has the same status as shvius. What is the status of shvius? That when it comes as mana beer, you have to finish consuming it. You're allowed to use it, but you have to finish it with mana beer. Big machlek is a shaynim b'chlal. Generally, is mana beer means you have to destroy it. Comes as mana beer when the animals in the field finish, you can't have it anymore. You destroy it, or it means you're no longer allowed to own it. You have to make it hefker. But afterwards, you're no different than anybody else. You can still enjoy it. You don't have to physically destroy it. Big machlekes. But whatever that din is, that's what happens is with his wages. Nice chodesh. What happened here? What do you mean that his wages have a status of shmita? Now what? That the guy paid you. He took paid shmita, mama shmita paid us, and he used it to pay you wages. And that's why we tell the worker that you have to treat it like shmita. Then it doesn't make sense. It's obvious, but you're not allowed to. When this guy worked for you, you have now an obligation to pay him. It's a chayv. And you are now paying off your chayv with shmita. You're not allowed to do that because it says la'achla v'leilas chayda. The pay the shmita Torah la'achla chayda. You're not allowed to go ahead and use it. This is like commerce. If you're paying somebody wages with your pay to the shmita, you're not allowed to do that. So forget about whether he's shmita or not. You're not allowed to even do that in the first place. And it doesn't sound like there's any issue in paying the guy wages like that. Ella. The Kodesh Chara B'Kedusha Shvius. Now what? That the wages take on the Kedusha Shemitah. Since he worked with Shemitah, and he's getting and the wages for that, they have the same din as Shemitah. They have to finish it by Nisa, whatever it is. The wages are holy. But Tanya, we learned what we just learned before. Sorry, was a back change around the order. If I tell him, go ahead and collect for me the vegetables, if it's time a wage, it's mutter. So we see that what? That the wage for working with Shemitah is taka mutter. The koitli yerek boyayim, if he tells me with this, as if he's buying and selling, that's chayasa. So what's going on? So what's the case here when you tell me that the wages that the person receives for working a Shemitah is aser? If he Pachik gave you paid a shvius, he's not allowed to. If he's just a wage, why not? Why is it awesome? But the Abaye says, we try to understand the chamorin. What happened here? Abaye says, we gave him wages from the fruits of Shemitah. I asked the question, you're paying off your chayv. with Pei Shvi, it says la'achla v'leilas chayda. You can only eat it, you can't do business with it. The Yav and Nelly there are ways of circumnavigating that Isser. And therefore you can give, there's a way of giving Pei Shvi. How? As if it's a gift. Now we learned. Don't tell a person, you know, he said, don't tell a person, do me a favor, transport all of these Pei Shvi, and then I'll give you a part of it for your effort. That's paying a wage. And you now do that with Meiser as well. Aval, if he tells the guy, and the reason why I'll do that is because you're paying off your chayiv with Meiser Sheni. You can't pay off your chayiv with Meiser Sheni. Aval, but you could tell him, bring them up, and we'll eat together. So you're not making it sound like it's a formal business arrangement. You make it sound more, you'll be my guest, and you'll and join us. That you can do. The noise and he gives them as a gift. So there are ways, if you make it look like it's not a business transaction, but I'm giving you as a gift, no problem. So Abaye therefore says, how can you give wages to a chamorin? You gave wages to chamorin as a matnas chinim, as a free gift. That's how you do it. And therefore, and Avodah Zarah Daf says, but we still cancel you. Because the fact is you're working with Shemitah things. Says the Gemara, but Rabba says, no, we're not talking about you paid him with fruits of Shemitah. Not talking about you paid him with fruits of Shemitah in a way that's mutter. You actually gave him a normal wage. And that wage becomes Kaddish Kedusha Shvius. You ask a question, if it becomes Kaddish Shvius, what about Poil? We said before, by a worker, go ahead and collect from me a Yedek. You're allowed to give him a wage. The wage does not become Kedusha Shvius. What's going on here? Why by Chamorin do we say that the wage becomes Shvius and here not? Do we say, Poil, the loy nafish agrei? He says, what's the problem with the wage? The wage is that we cancel you. We said before, yayin esech and chamori, because you're working with Shemitah. When do we cancel you if it's a sizable amount of money? When you tell the guy the koit the yedek, how much money are you giving him? A dinner. You said you're giving him a dinner. So you're not paying him a lot of money, so we don't bother to cancel the guy. Poyo delay nafish agrei, it's not a lot of money, like konsur rabbanon. It doesn't look so bad with the bonus side not to cancel him. Amorin the nafish agrayu, but those people who freight, you know, with the donkeys, it's a lot of money. Konsur rabbanon bohu. The Chachamim did cancel. No, masnis in our mission. We're talking about a poil. We're not talking about a courier. We're talking about a poil in our mission, and it says over there that the wages that the person gets for help for carrying a barrel from one point to another point is the usher. Why? Here, I don't care how much money you get or how little money you get. You're talking about yain esach. It's a te'eva. You shouldn't be involved at all, and therefore we decide to cancel you no matter how much it is. Okay, that's yain esach. What about stam yainam? Are we going to remember? We learned before the 3 categories. Now, stam yainam, on certain respects, is just like yain esach. Not only you're not allowed to drink it, you're not allowed to have yain from it, but in certain respects, stam yainam, when it comes to the laws of tumah, if you remember we had the Tana, that when it comes to the laws of tumah, it's very different. Yain esach, we said we learned from zivchei meisi that it has the same din as if you touch a dead, 7 everything, all those tumahs. When it comes to stam yainam, it's only tumah sheretz, only tumah erev, only till that night. So when it comes to tumah, it's much weaker. So which one do we focus on when we decide stam yena? Are we going to say the wages are us or not? You hired him to help out in stam yena. What's it in there? And talk about carrying bottles, working in a Goyish wine shop. Basically, that's what it is. You're carrying stam yena from one place to another place. What's it in there? Do we say? Because it has the same state as the yain esach, the wages are forbidden as well. Or we say or we say because when it comes to the laws of tumah, it's far more lenient than kill. In other words, when it comes to ancillary things outside of immediate avedas, we're much more makel. So maybe this is also like outside. It's only a question of knas. We're not going to cancel. Toshma coming here. That there was this person. The Agad Arbe, he hired a boat for Stam Yenon. He hired a boat for Stam Yenon. They gave him wheat for wages. Also, Kamar Chizdi, one of the said, can I use the wheat? Amalei Zil go, Kalinu burn it, Vikavrinu. Burying is not enough. You have to burn it and bury it. We learned the end of tomorrow there about all the Yisudin, if you just bury it or you have to burn it. Here you do both. You burn it and you bury it. No, but bottom line is you can't have hanor from the wages. So we see the answer is the stam yenam. Also, wages are forbidden. Says the Gemara, first of all, why go to such extremes? Let him tell him, Badrinu, scatter it around. Throw it away. Why do you have to? But he has, he got a little bit. How much wheat would he gotten for a wage? Take that wheat and throw it away. Also, takala. No, other people will use it, and it'll be a takala. Clearly, from here we see, not like those Hashem I just told you. You just said before that when it comes to a kanas, others can benefit from it. So what's the takala? You don't want, unless the takala is to learn, you yourself might not realize that this came. You'll find it somewhere, and you only realize this is the original wheat that you scattered, maybe. Okay, so burn it and then scatter it. Why have to bury it? Was a deal with available? Because you can use a fertilizer. Okay, you have to bury it, so nobody should use it. Just bury the way it is, intact. And how do you know that's good enough? How do you know you have to? I told you, we learned in Satan Hedgen, if a person got stoned, the stone that you stoned him with, the echad eitz shenitla of the tree that you hung him on, the echad sayiv shenetba, or any other punishments of bezin, the sayiv, for example, for cherev, the echad sudah shenetba, the handkerchief that you strangled him with. What do you do with that thing? You don't just use it again for the next criminal. Kulam nikbarim imay, they all get buried intact. So we see that when it comes to burial, you bury it intact. So why, when it comes to the wheat, we tell them, no, you have to bury it, but first you have to burn it. What do you have to burn it for? The Gemara. Hasam de Kakavri. We didn't bury. Remember, we had a special base of kavadas, and we had two sections. We had one for the sereif and the skilla, and we had one for Hedri Chenik. It's in a special base of kavadas. So everybody knows that this belongs to the bezin, what it's for. Nobody's going to take it for their own use. Hasam de Kakavri bebeidina. There you're burying it in a bezin. Everyone knows that rugi bezin. Nobody's going to take it. We're going to bury it. There's no law that says we have to bury it. Dig a hole wherever you want and bury it inside. People, it's not so clear. People are going to say, Ganef, maybe this guy, he stole it. The Isaac kiver, and he put it in the cave. He stole the wheat, and he hid it in the cave until whatever the police stop searching for all those bundles of wheat, and he'll take it out. And he buried it over here. Maybe that's what happened here. So therefore, we're choishes. That's why you have to burn it and bury it. So the way Rabbi Yanai and Nusugya, the family of Rabbi Yanai, they wanted to help out the poor. What they did was Yosri paid a shvius manim. They would buy or borrow. They would borrow fruits of shmita from the poor, and the poor didn't need so many fruits because hefker, so there were available plenty of fruits. So they didn't need so many. So the Rabbi Yanai would go and borrow the fruits of shmita from the poor, part a little bit shmitas, and they would pay them back in the 8th year. Now the question is, if it's a swap. Shmita, you swap something else, becomes also, so it's shmita in the 8th year, you're not allowed to eat it. What do they get? How can they pay them back with fruits from the 8th year? It's the Easter, the shmita transfers from the fruits that they said to the guy, lend us this and we'll pay you back with fruits next year. This way the poor knew they're going to get some fruits next year. Yeah, you tell me, I'll take care of you. Very nice. But those fruits are chalipin of the fruits of shmita, so they should have the dinim of shmita, which means you cannot eat it in the 8th year. Also, they went and people went and told Rabbi Yechanan. You know what the family of Rabbi Yechanan is doing? They're making a whole geschäft to pay the Shemitah. And he said to them, they did a good thing. What do you mean they did a good thing? And the svara is, because at the time they took the thing, whatever they planned to give didn't exist. Remember, they're giving the fruits from the 8th year. They didn't grow yet. So therefore, it's not more than there's nowhere for the Easter to swap to. And when they have the fruits of 8th year, the Peder shoes are no longer here. So there's nothing here to swap over to. That's how some of the Shem learned. So therefore, there's no Easter. Saying that by the time the Peder Shminis grow, there's no more Easter Shminis. That's what I'm saying. No. But the Easter already went. Look, the question is the Easter already moved over. So we're saying it moves to the fruits, but there were no fruits. No, it's not on the Gabra, it's on the Chepzer. There's no Chepzer. That's the point. That's exactly the point. They thought it transfers to the Gabra, or whatever deal you made, whenever it happened, it automatically is chal on it then. And how do I know that? Where's the precedent? The mice with Esnan, right? So this harlot, you give her a present for having the Aveda with her, you cannot bring it to the base of Mikdash, right? But what happens if you give her the present after you did the Aveda? So at the time when you did the Aveda, the present wasn't around. So then it's not also to bring the base of Mikdash. Because when you do give it to her, the Easter is no longer there. Says the Gemara. How do I know? Time we learn two cases. Nosson, he gave her to her as a present, but he didn't do it. The way we read it, Pashut, he didn't do anything wrong with her. No, so what's the Gemara asks us what's going on here? Or the second case is he did have relations with her, but he didn't give her a present. It's not a mutter. It doesn't make sense. Nothing happened. What's the problem? Even Lebola, matana gives her matana. What's the problem? Question number one. Question number two. He had relations, didn't give her anything. So how are you talking about? What do you even mean that the gift is mutter? What gift? So now they're going to try like this. This is how you learn. Nosan he gave it to her. So instead of giving it to b'shas ma'isa, he gave it to her right away. They had relations. He gave it to her in the morning. In the afternoon, they had relations. Even though he gave it to her because of that, at the time, nothing happened. So therefore, there's no Isser. Or case number two. First he had relations, and afterwards he gave it to her. That's none of mutter. Now let's understand. Nosan he gave it to her. He gave it in the morning. And why did he give it to her? Because they're going to have a relationship. So whenever they have a relationship, why isn't it chal then? It should be mafreya. Now we know for sure that this is connected to an aveda. But Rabbi Loza is talking about. Oh, you're right. It does, because the behemoth is still around. And the behemoth is still around when you did the Isser, and the Isser is chala mafreya. Here it's talking about the behemoth is no longer around. When is no longer around? She as soon as you gave it to 9 o'clock in the morning, she was at tzadekis. She right away set it aside for a korban. Exactly. And the relationship had an afternoon. So therefore, at the time the relationship happened, the behemoth is no longer hers. It really belongs to Hegdish. Remember, Hechadami. Sorry? We'll see in a minute. Hechadami. If he said to her, 9 o'clock in the morning, this is yours, and be kinder right now, even, if you change your mind later and you walk away, it's yours. Then pshit to the shari. Then there's no real connection. Even though that's a kavanah, but the lepoil is already hers regardless if anything happens now or not. Pshit to the shari. No less of b'shas biyah. It's and Nochman, if she made it Hegdish, it's not even around anymore. It's not around. Stop with matana. If he didn't say be kind right now, in other words, when I'm giving it to you now because we're going to have relations, so when does it really become hers? When they have the relations. So the chayda, you tell me 10 o'clock in the morning she made a carbon, but it's not hers yet. It only becomes hers when they have that relationship. And it says the passage we had in Baba Kama, it has to be yours, b'shas ma'isa. And it's not hers. B'shas ma'isa. It has to be based on shaloi over there. It says, and it's not his. So this is what he said. Ela the Amala, he said, Lehevi gaboch, let it be by you, ad shaz bia. The animal that I'm giving you, the sheep, whatever I'm giving you, to stay with you until shaz bia. So it doesn't become hers till shaz bia. But he says to her, if he mamash need it, then retrospective. Now, if it's retrospective, it's not connected to the thing. So the moment that she was makdish it, she proved that's no longer connected, and that's the chiddush over here. But even though he opened first, he said to her, we'll have a relationship with yours. But then because he gave her the extra clause, he did. Betty Mother just quickly here. What happened in this case? That's exactly what the husband said. The guy said, it's for later, but if you need it. So what happened? She jumped ahead and she was makdish it. Do we say? Do we say that since we have a general rule that when you say something to Hegdish is no different than making a kinyan with a Hedyot. Is command akrif to dummy, because before we said she was maktiv and she was maktiv. She went ahead straight away. Not only set it aside, she actually was maktiv. Now the question is, she wasn't maktiv. She just set it aside. Do we say setting it aside as if you were maktiv already, because you can't step back? So she's maktiv, no problem, it's good. The animal is still the pile. She wasn't maktiv yet. She's makdish, and it looks like a teiva because the animal is still here, even though she's set it aside, and they're about to have the aveda. The isa be'ena, it's be'en. But the Gemara, why don't we just place for the words of Rabbi Lezer? Just finish it. So Rabbi Lezer shekodma v'hikrifta dafka. What did he say? He said that she jumped ahead and she brought her up as a carbon. Sounds like only if she actually brought her up as a carbon, it's not sufficient just to set it aside. Doesn't that answer your question? But sounds like if you're makdish, it's not good enough. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Lezer gufa kama boy. Rabbi Lezer wasn't certain. We're not sure what Rabbi Lezer is saying here. Pshita is the pshat Rebbe that he knows 100% certainty. Krifta dafka v'dishtei loy. Only if you're makrivid, but if you set aside no. The isa b'shas bia because the animal's still sitting in the room there, or in the house, whatever it is, still in her possession b'shas bia. Or dilma he krifta pshitale. That what he krifta. Then if you're makrivid, there's no question that you're allowed to bring it. Higdishta misapke, but higdishta he wasn't sure, so he decided to leave it out. Very cool. See you tomorrow, Mr. Shem.